Good afternoon, everybody. We are here in the Tropical Cove at the Tennessee Aquarium. It is the first day of spring, and tomorrow is actually World Frog Day. So for that, we're here today with Susie Grant to talk about some frogs.
Hello.
So,
frogs are really interesting animals. There are all different kinds of frogs all around the world, and so we thought we might take a few minutes and introduce you to just a few of our education ambassador animals, starting with this fun little frog. He actually has a really unique name. If we were to look just under his belly, you see he's got those nice bright colors. And so he's actually what's called a fire-bellied toad because of that nice bright red color that he has. You'll also notice that he has that nice green and black on his back. That's to help him in order to protect himself. He is a semi-aquatic little frog, so if you look carefully at his back feet, you can see that they've got little webbing between the toes, helping to make him a really great swimmer. And so if he is in the water and feeling a little threatened, he can swim down to the bottom and will bury himself down in the mud. However, if he's out on land, he can use those nice colors to help camouflage. But if he really feels threatened and he feels like he needs to protect himself, that's when he deploys his secret weapon. And his secret weapon is going to be to flip over on his back and show off that nice red belly that he has, that red, yellow, orange. Those are all kind of warning colors in nature. And he uses something called the Unken reflex, which means that he's going to push his stomach and push his back up, showing off that stomach and even the back sides of his arms and legs, or his front feet and his back feet, to show that red color, which contains a mild toxin, and it kind of tells everybody that I taste really bad, and so you probably want to leave me alone. So he's one really unique frog, but he's not the only frog that we have that is kind of just a beautiful little creature that has some kind of unique ways. Oh, he doesn't quite want to go home yet. Let's see if he wants to come on back. Here we go. Now, all of our frogs have very sensitive skin, so you'll notice that he's got a nice little wet spot to come home to. That helps him as he travels back and forth to maintain the moisture that he needs to stay healthy. Frog skin is kind of a semi-permeable membrane. That means that some things will come right through the skin, including water. So he can get a drink of water while he's sitting there in a puddle. But I'm going to introduce you now to another frog that's not one that you would find around here. And he may look like something you find in your kitchen. So let's see if he wants to come out and see us for just a minute. There he goes. They're all showing you what great ability they have to hop. Here. But you may notice that he's kind of a round, chubby little frog, and he might look like something you might enjoy on a sandwich. He's a tomato frog. Gets his name from that kind of shape and that bright red color. However, he is not something that we would want, because again, those colors can be warning colors that can say he has a mild toxin that's going to help to protect him. Again, it's telling his predators that he tastes very badly. He is one that's native to Madagascar. We're going to let him go ahead and come back in his little travel enclosure. Right. Again, he's showing you how he likes to move around.
Great. While Susie's getting the next one, I just want to thank everybody for tuning in today. And please let us know if you have any frog questions for us.
All right. Now this next little frog, again, is not one that we would find right around here. However, we do have things that are similar around here. And this is a great time of year to be looking for them. I bet if you look carefully, you can see those very unique toes that he has, which would give you an idea of what kind of frog he is. This is a tree frog. Again, got those nice little suction cup toes. I'm going to hold him up here so you can see how he might hold on to the tree bark. He can climb high up into the trees. He is primarily arboreal, which means that he spends most of his life up in the tops of the trees. Now, like most frogs, they are primarily nocturnal, so he's going to be coming out at night. You can again see that kind of waxy looking skin that helps to hold in that moisture. As we said, their skin is very, very important, and that's why you may notice that I get my hands wet every time before I handle any of our frogs. It's just again to help protect them. And right now he's this nice green color. That may help him to blend in with the tree tops, with the leaves and things, but he can also change colors so that he can more easily match the brown of the tree trunk. And a lot of our tree frogs have that ability to change color. Now this is one of the larger tree frogs, and it's found in Australia. But again, we have lots of tree frogs around here, and this is a great time of the year because with the coming of spring, frogs are out and about. They're starting to call. You'll hear lots and lots of different types of calls, especially early in the evening, where you've got some of the things like the spring peepers and some of the chorus frogs starting to call. They're all looking for mates. And when they're calling, you can see that large throat sac kind of expand as they're filling it with air so their call can resonate, as it's a great way to try to attract their mates.
Okay, so we do have a couple questions. What do the frogs eat?
Well, our frogs primarily like to eat a lot of insects, but some of them are really not so picky, and they will eat those insects, but like our little fire-bellied toad has been known to take a few little guppies. Some of the other ones will eat earthworms and snails and things like that. A lot of times they're opportunistic, which means that they will eat whatever they can find that they can fit into their mouth. So our tree frog is going to be looking primarily for insects that he can find up high in the trees, whereas our tomato frog, which is more of a burrower, is going to eat more earthworms and maybe some snails. And again, our little fire-bellied toad, who's semi-aquatic, will eat not only those invertebrates, but sometimes those small guppies.
So Susie, I think I've heard before that frogs have somewhat of a unique way of eating that has to do with their eyes as well.
They do. They use their tongue mostly to grab their food. So some of them, like our little tree frog here, will have a tongue that they can extend out to grab their food. Others, like our fire-bellied toad, they don't really have a movable tongue, so they're going to just grab it with their mouth. But then once they get it in their mouth, they don't necessarily have the same strong throat muscles like you and I do. So they have this unique way of feeding, and that involves those big eyes on top of their head. You can see their eyes set up high, almost like they're sticking off the top of their head. But when they close their eyes, their eyeballs can sink down into their head and push on the roof of their mouth, and that helps to push the food right down into their bellies. And then, of course, when they open their eyes pop right back up to where they are meant to be. So it's really kind of a fun thing to think about how they might eat.
Very cool. Thank you, Susie. I think we have one other frog to bring out.
We do. Let me let this tree frog go back to his little travel enclosure here. And we need to make a little space for this one.
Okay. I do see two more questions.
Okay.
Is it okay to have frogs as pets?
Well, with anything, the first thing you need to do is always check with your state or local wildlife officials, because some animals are protected and each state has slightly different rules and regulations. Sometimes it depends on the type of frog that you're interested in getting. The most important thing is if you find that it is legal to have the pet or that particular type of frog in your area, you would want to make sure that you do a little research. Know what's involved in taking care of them. Know where you're going to be able to find food. Know how they're going to need to be housed. Know what kind of cover and what kind of temperatures they're going to need. And another key thing is know how long they're going to live. We think about those little bitty frogs, but some frogs can live anywhere from 10 to 40 years. And so that's a very long time to think about having a pet. So my recommendation is anytime you're thinking about any kind of an animal as a pet, that you do your research, check not only with the care, but also with what's legal in your state or around your area.
Okay. Okay.
And this is our final frog today with us. Now, you may say he's not really little, and he may look like an animal that you could see in your backyard. He's what's called a marine toad or a cane toad, and he is one of the largest toad species around. Now, we do have toads that live here in our backyard, and they're to be considered like distant cousins, and that they have a lot of the same similarities. They'll have the same kind of coloration, that same warty skin. They tend to have shorter back legs than some of our true frogs and some of the tree frogs that depend more on leaping. He tends to be more of a little short hopper, or maybe he'll walk a little bit. But you can see his coloration is very different than the frogs that we've looked at already as well. He's kind of got that dark brown color. Look carefully at his toes and you'll see there are no little suction cups and there's no webbing between his feet. He is one that's going to be primarily terrestrial or living on land, and his coloration would tell you that he might like to live in a forested area down on the forest floor. So he's going to stay where there's lots of dead leaves and things like that he can hide in. He is going to stay near the water because, again, like all frogs, they depend on that moisture. And you can see those large eyes that he has. He also has this large gland right here behind. You can see that little round circle. That would be his tympanic membrane or his ear. And just behind that is that large gland called a parotid gland. Now, many of us may remember stories or remember times when we were young where we might catch and pick up a frog. And if you think about it, the frog's going to show us how they're going to defend themselves. So the first thing this toad is going to do, like our toads around here, is they may huff and puff and blow themselves up with air to make them really hard for an animal to get their mouth around. And if that doesn't work, then they often will pee or urinate all over you, again trying to get you to just let them go. But if that doesn't work, that's when that parotid gland comes into play. And they can ooze kind of a milky white substance, a toxin from them that would cause an irritation. It can be very powerful, it can be strong. But if you've ever watched a dog in your backyard pick up a toad, you might see them kind of foaming at the mouth a little bit. And that's a reaction to the bufotoxin, or the toxin that comes from this parotid gland. Now, one kind of fun thing is, people look at frogs like this, and some people think they're just really super cute and really cool. Other people are not so sure. They've got a lot of good benefits to us. Our little frogs that look like these, the little American toads that you might find in your backyard, they did a study one time, and they know they like to eat lots and lots of insects. And they found out that in the summer months, when the insects are at their highest, that little toad can eat nearly 10,000 insects just over the summer. That's roughly about 1,000 insects a day. So just imagine the great job that all of our frogs are doing out for us. In their natural habitats, just trying to survive. They're helping us out in many, many ways.
Very cool. Okay, so I noticed that we brought out, I think, a couple of frogs and a couple of toads at this point. Susie, what is the difference between frogs and toads?
Well, toads are a kind of frog. That's all the big umbrella that encompasses all of them. But when you start looking at some of the characteristics of them, the true toads tend to have drier, bumpier, what we would call wartier skin. They tend to have shorter back legs, and so they tend to walk or do short hops, whereas the true frogs are going to be those that can do those really long jumps, sometimes 10 times the length of their body. Be their jump. This guy's going to have a hard time jumping 10 times the length of his body. You can see how he's moving around right now. He tends to just like to walk around. And that's what he would do in his natural habitat as well.
Yeah, and as you can see, he is bigger than Susie's hand here, which makes him the biggest frog that I've ever seen. Susie, is this one of the biggest toads or frogs in the world?
He is one of the largest types of toads found in the world, and marine toads like this can get to where they weigh anywhere from 3 to 5 pounds. So think about that. That's a 5-pound bag of sugar that you're buying at the grocery store. Is about what he's going to weigh. And he, again, is a very opportunistic eater, so in addition to eating those insects, he will literally eat anything that fits inside of his mouth. That includes other frog species, as well as small rodents like young mice, or even when they're fully grown, an adult mouse would be a nice treat for them.
Very cool. Okay, if anybody has any questions, please let us know about any of our frogs today, or any frog questions in general for Susie.
Wanting to talk. It's important to remember that all of our frogs, they are amphibians, and as amphibians, they are what we would call an indicator species. So, as you're celebrating National Frog Day, then keep in mind that we want to keep our habitats clean for them. That includes all of our wetlands as well as some of our forested areas, where we're going to find these creatures that are doing a wonderful job in helping us with things like keeping those insects under control, as well as helping us understand how our environment works.
Wonderful. Okay, thank you so much, Susie. Thank you to all of our frogs and toads as well. I would like to ask you guys to let us know, we do have one question. How old is this guy?
We don't know exactly how old this particular toad is. We do know that this is one of the species that has been known to live over 40 years. He has been with us for over 5 years, and he was an adult when he came to us.
Okay, and oh, one more question, I think, about the marine toad. Does he bite?
Well, you know, anything that has a mouth can bite, but he does not have any teeth. Now, some frogs do have some teeth in their mouth. The marine toad does not, so it would be a lot of pressure that you would feel if he were to bite down on you. But he really is only going to go after those things that are his food.
Okay, great. And one more, is it safe to touch them? I think that was about frogs in general.
That's a great question, because a lot of times we're told, especially as kids, that if you pick up a toad and it pees on you, it's going to give you warts. But warts are caused by a virus. It's not caused by the frog itself. So it is safe. That's an old wives' tale that potentially started to keep kids from bringing frogs home and in their pockets and things. However, while it may not be harmful to us, it is important to remember that it could be harmful to the frogs if we're handling them a lot. Again, like I said, I make sure that my hands are wet, and that's to protect their skin. They have very sensitive skin.
Wonderful. Okay, well, thank you guys again so much for tuning in. Please let us know in the comments as well other things you might want to see in the aquarium. We are going to try to do these as much as possible, hopefully at least once a day during the week. So just let us know if there's anything you're interested in or questions you have, and we will try to get to those in an upcoming live. Again, thank you so much for tuning in, and we'll